think it's important that we understand that social media is not all bad. It absolutely has some benefits. One of the things that I enjoyed doing this year was a talk show called Talk Soup. We used Facebook and YouTube, as well as Instagram, to have a platform for scholars to talk about mental health and wellness and what's working well for them and what some of their needs are.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday shine online. Now, let's get back to the interview.
Hi, I'm Dr. Avis Williams. I am the proud superintendent of NOLA Public Schools in New Orleans, Louisiana. And we are an all-charter school district, and we have 72 schools, about 43,000 students, and I am the authorizer for about 34 different charter networks. We call our students scholars because that's what they are.
Hello, I'm Rob Clayton, Superintendent, Warren County Public Schools in Bowling Green, Kentucky. We are the fourth largest school district in Kentucky with a little more than 18,000 students, 23 regular A1 schools, comprehensive schools, and then we do have 7 sites where we offer alternative programming. And it's a very diverse school district represented by a little more than 90 countries and over 120 languages, dialects.
I'm Gustavo Balderas, Superintendent of Schools in the Beaverton School District, a west side suburb of Portland, Oregon, that services roughly 40,000 kids on 54 campuses.
How has the prevalence of technology in the classroom impacted student learning and engagement?
So technology has absolutely impacted student learning and engagement. One of the things that I really prioritize is lifting up student voice and asking them, because too often we're making decisions as adults, and even if they're research-based and evidence-based and that sort of thing, sometimes we miss the boat when we don't ask our scholars. And one of the things that I've heard over and over again is that children want to be taught by people. They love technology and they love engaging in technology, but they also they love the relationship that they get with their teachers and the conversation and the rapport and so forth that they have with their teachers and their fellow students. And I do think that over the last 3 years, we've had to do things out of necessity in terms of how we've used technology. And as a leader, I know I've learned a lot in terms of what works well and what doesn't. But I would say the main thing is just making sure that we're staying in close contact with our scholars to ensure that the technology that we're using is meeting their needs, that they are actually engaged as it relates to what's happening in the classroom. Nothing bothers me more than walking into a classroom and seeing technology, and I'm using air quotes, used almost like a worksheet. Right. And that defeats the purpose. And I don't see that nearly as often as I did before the pandemic. So I think we've all learned a lot and we need to continue leaning in and talking to our scholars to ensure that they feel engaged as it relates to how technology is used.
It's really been a critical component for us in terms of engagement. And one of the examples we often use is when our students leave us each day, they can go right to their homes and put on a set of headphones and really go into a virtual reality space. Our point is that is very engaging for kids. And so it's made it more of a challenge for our educators to engage our students at the level necessary because, again, we're competing with a lot of interests that are out there. And because of the technology and the change of technology, it's really critical that we position ourselves as educators to not only understand the best uses of technology and implementation, but also use it in a manner where it does have a positive impact on student learning and student achievement.
I think the prevalence of technology in schools has been really a game changer of late, especially since the pandemic hit. It's been the great equalizer. Before, I think a variety of school districts could not afford to have the technology be equitably distributed around all kids. And I think this has made a just been a game changer for our district. So every school has some level of technology, and our kids are being more proficient, and our staff are being more proficient in terms of their ability to promote instruction via the technology.
How can school districts deal with social media issues that may originate on a social media app, but then might create a big problem on campus or for the district, whether it's that same day or Monday morning when we're back on campus?
So I think it's important that when we think about how our students use social media, it's important that we understand the various platforms. And the best way to understand that is also student voice, making sure that they have a seat at the table to help educate us on some of what they're doing as it relates to social media. And then the other piece is policy. We've had to update policies to include the use of technology, whether we're talking about cyberbullying or just issues that occur, and to your point, that occur over the weekend or at home or in the evenings and that sort of thing. We do have to make sure that our policies are aligned with the challenges that our scholars face in such a way that we can lean on the policy to ensure that we're interacting correctly. If there's a consequence that's involved, that the children and their families are aware of what the consequences might be if an incident occurs that's related to something that may have happened over the weekend or through social media. And policies have to be in tune with the times. We have to make sure that the language that we use is broad enough to where it fits a variety of scenarios, but also specific enough to ensure that our children are being protected. And another piece of that is just making sure that our scholars know, how do you report this? How do you report a problem as it relates to something that may have occurred on social media? All of that should be a part of either the policy or the procedure around how school districts are managing social media and the issue of bullying and cyberbullying. When I talk to my scholars, they are very concerned with what they see and how they even engage as it relates to social media. We talk a lot about mental health supports and trauma, and every time I have that conversation with my scholars, social media is one of the things that they bring up that creates additional challenges. And as the adults and as the leaders, we have to be aware of that, and we have to be prepared with policies and procedures that are specific enough and aimed at addressing those issues.
First and foremost for us, it's really about ensuring that our entire school community, our parents, guardians, even our business and industry partners, recognize and understand how social media is changing the way we operate. We're under more scrutiny than ever before for a variety of reasons, but social media really puts a microphone, if you will, in a lot of different people's faces. And so because of that, we have to be cognizant that when we make decisions, when we address situations in a school, we have to be mindful that social media could have an impact. And it certainly has increased some of the challenges that our students face, our adults face in our schools. In many cases, as you mentioned earlier, the social media comes from outside our school walls, and it infiltrates all the way into the classroom. So we'll deal with, from time to time, situations that occur as a result of the social media. It can create situations where in the school day, our administrators, our staff are addressing concerns that were just put out there on social media. And then the whole anonymity piece can really have an impact. We went through a period of a year or so where very frequently we were receiving messages anonymous through social media that unfortunately was impacting our day-to-day operations, whether it were school threats, whether it was information that required us to conduct an investigation to ensure that it did not relate to any of our students, staff, or schools. The bottom line is it has greatly complicated the work that now is occurring in our schools as a result.
I think social media is here to stay, and I think it's through education. I think we need to make sure that our kids understand at a very young age in terms of the impacts of social media, and also families. I think some families are aren't as aware as their kids. I mean, some parents are much older than their students and aren't as tech savvy as their kids. I know I have 2 boys. I know I'm not. So it's how do you really get parents to understand social media and the impacts, and how do you educate kids on the proper use of social media? Because everybody has one of these on them now. Everybody has a phone on them, even at a young age, 3rd, 4th graders even. So how do you really educate kids on the proper use of technology on a school campus and off a school campus in terms of what's the proper use of social media, in terms of, what you hear often is some bullying and harassment that could possibly take place via social media, and educate kids in terms of the impact of that and their families.
Can you provide some examples of maybe how some students have used their social media accounts in a positive and a productive manner that may have benefited themselves or their community?
Yeah, I think it's important that we understand that social media is not all bad. It absolutely has some benefits. One of the things that I enjoyed doing this year was a talk show called Talk Soup. We used Facebook and YouTube, as well as Instagram, to have a platform for scholars to talk about mental health and wellness and what's working well for them and what some of their needs are. And it was really cool to be able to have that conversation with our scholars and to see them lead in that space. And when we made one episode into a podcast, they were so excited. And they gave us some great ideas on how we can expand this for next year. So next year, we're going to really lean into social justice with our scholars and give them a space and a platform to be able to share what their needs are and how they view themselves as leaders within their community. And we'll do that through social media. So it's a great way to inform, and it's a great way to celebrate. I think one of the things that I really enjoyed in my previous role as a superintendent was using social media as a form of celebrating, where we're making announcements via, Facebook or Instagram, and surprising a teacher live. We did that a couple of times when I was a superintendent in Selma, and the teachers really enjoyed being recognized, and their families and friends who knew about it also enjoyed being able to engage and to see that on social media. So I absolutely know that there are some positive aspects to social media, and that we need to engage in a positive way. And we can model that for our scholars. We can show them some positive ways to engage in social media.
Oh, absolutely. I think the first thing that we've tried to do is embrace the social media aspect in terms of providing some insight into what's happening in our schools, what's happening in the classrooms, the activities. We use it to showcase many of the positive aspects of our students, of the work that they're accomplishing. But then also when you think about career opportunities and networking, we're engaging our students in how to use social media apps in such a way that it actually brings benefit to themselves. And I think about the most common forms when you look at Facebook and Twitter, and then from a professional standpoint, LinkedIn, it is an opportunity to better connect with people all across the globe. And we're a very collaborative school district, and we feel like that the appropriate use of technology, and in this case, social media, can actually bring our worlds together, can actually increase learning as we experience the different social media formats and apps. But I think, again, going back to our primary goal of ensuring that our students can be successful beyond their K-12 experience, we know that social media is not going anywhere. It's going to be around, and what we want to do is try to utilize that resource in as positive manner as we can.
Oh yeah, kids are marvelous, right? Kids are wonderful, and they do a great job of. Oh yeah, kids are marvelous, right? Kids are wonderful, and they do a great job of social awareness, and I think that's one of the aspects of social media that's really made an impact. A quick example would be we have a climate justice league here with kids. So in terms of the impact of just environmental impacts of automobiles, our buses, and so forth. And our kids have used social media to really promote themselves to the broader community in terms of the aspects of what we do in our school district with regards to transportation or energy use, and using technology and their social media to really kick their message out. So it really is about getting the message out to the broader community. And that's just one example of how kids are really, some kids have really activated their networks in our community to really extend knowledge out to our community in terms of what the impacts of our current practices are toward the environment. That's our local social justice league at one of our high schools, of social awareness. And I think that's one of the aspects of social media that's really made an impact. A quick example would be, we have a climate justice league here with kids. So in terms of the impact of just environmental impacts of automobiles, our buses, and so forth. And our kids have used social media to really promote themselves to the broader community in terms of the aspects of what we do in our school district with regards to transportation or energy use, and using technology and their social media to really kick their message out. So it really is about getting the message out to the broader community. And that's just one example of how kids are really, some kids have really activated their networks in our community to really extend knowledge out to our community in terms of what the impacts of our current practices are toward the environment. That's our local social justice league at one of our high schools.
Thanks for listening to our smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Oakes. This was our District Talk segment where we interview school district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday launch into their future by shining online. This episode was brought to you by our smartsocial.com VIP program. It's called the Very Informed Parent Program, which helps you engage your students with teen-led video lessons. Stay one step ahead with our premium parent newsletter and discover hidden features on trending apps on teens' phones and our 54 plus live parent and student-friendly events every single year. You can click on the link below to chat with one of our team members if you want a free pass to our VIP program to support your community with our smartsocial.com resources. And if you're a district leader who has a success story, we would love to feature you on a future episode. You can click the links below to reach out. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Have a great day.